Refreshing Fox Carolina, the 10 o'clock news.
Right now here at 10 o'clock, another arrest for an upstate boutique owner. The charges coming down from a county that now has this woman in handcuffs for the 11th time. Plus, honoring Reverend Jesse Jackson, how his hometown is now paying tribute to this civil rights leader. And the race for governor running right through the upstate today. As Republicans hold a forum in Greenville, a Democratic candidate joins us in studio. Why he says the state is ready for change. And we begin right now here at 10 o'clock with your first alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Kendra Kent. And Kendra, winter has returned in full force here today.
Yeah, especially tonight. I mean, the wind is still kicking up a bit. Temperatures are falling fast. So that means it feels like 18 in Greenville. So if you still need to get the dog out or drag the garbage can back off the road, bundle up because it's hard to be out in this for very long. 7 is what it feels like in Asheville. So we are going to be warming up tomorrow. We'll start off with less wind in the morning, actual temperature right around 24, and then upper 30s by 11 o'clock, and then we'll warm our way to around 50 by the afternoon. So a bitter cold start tomorrow morning and overnight tonight, then warming up through the week steadily. It's not going to be a 81-degree day in a couple days like what we had last week, but we will add to the temperature each and every day. And then next rain chance comes on Thursday, and this is going to be quite a bit of rain, but the timing, well, that's really everything. We'll go hour by hour on Future Track to show you when we're going to see that soaking rain, and it will likely be around for several hours coming up.
Right now here at 10 o'clock, we have some breaking news for you in the search for Nancy Guthrie in Arizona. Reports now say the suspect visited Guthrie's door before the night of her disappearance. Officials say the picture of the suspect in her disappearance and the video of the suspect from the Ring camera were taken on 2 separate days. Both were released on February 10th by the FBI, but reports now say those 2 were taken on 2 separate days rather than just on February 1st when officials believe Guthrie was kidnapped. CNN says sources told them the masked suspect is not wearing a backpack in one of them. CNN reached out to the FBI for a comment. Of course, we'll continue to follow this closely as Guthrie has now been missing for more than 3 weeks. And a first alert out of Lawrence County tonight, where the coroner now confirms 1 person has died in a crash on 385. The crash happened just after 6 o'clock tonight on I-385, close to mile marker 20 near Fountain Inn. All lanes were blocked. You can see in this busy scene here, but all those lanes have since been reopened. The coroner confirms a pedestrian was killed in the crash. They have not yet been identified. We have reached out for more on what led up to this situation. And of course, we're still waiting to hear back. In Oconee County tonight, a decade-old crime now solved. A man is now charged with murder 10 years after a deadly shooting. Coke Sanford, the 5th, was arrested in Westminster today. Deputies say in December of 2015, Jesse Mulkey was found shot in the chest on Brock Road. In 2017, deputies say they determined Sanford shot Mulkey, but were still working to determine if it was self-defense, as officials say both men had weapons. Officials say the cold case unit continued investigating and found more evidence that the shooting was intentional and not self-defense. Today, Sanford was charged with murder. New details for you here tonight. 1 upstate boutique owner and 11 different arrests. Tonight, Brooke Schrontz back behind bars for the 11th time. You can see each of her mugshots here since the beginning of the year. Just about every arrest happening in the upstate. And now tonight, another arrest here in the upstate. Fox County's Ashley Listrom joins us live now in studio. Ashley, you've been following this one closely. So how does this latest arrest now fit into the bigger picture of this multi-arrest situation?
Well, Justin, it's hard to believe, but for the 11th time, Brooke Schrontz was booked. The Cherokee County Sheriff's Office says they secured arrest warrants last week, but they actually had to wait for other agencies to get her into custody finally today. And Schrontz is the owner of Thomas and Turner Boutique in Belton. The Sheriff's Office says in today's arrest, a victim filed a report in December. That victim ordered more than $350 of products through the boutique's online store. But deputies say the customer never received the products. Like others, the customer tried repeatedly to get answers from Schrontz, but was eventually blocked. And multiple victims reported Schrontz to their local law enforcement before this 11th arrest. But she was also arrested on Friday in Greenwood County. Other boutique owners in the the area say Schrantz's actions could be hurting their reputations.
We just do not want one bad apple to ruin the rest of the bunch. We just don't want the lack of trust there and credibility. And we hope that everyone continues to remember the importance of shopping small.
Schrantz's 11 arrests are scattered across South Carolina, but mostly in the upstate, spanning from Anderson County to Pickens County. You can see Spartanburg County here on your screen, even Richland County, just to name a few. And for today's arrest, Schrantz is charged with one count of obtaining property under false pretenses, less than $2,000. She was granted a more than $2,000 bond. Reporting live in the studio, Ashley Listrom, Fox Carolina News.
Looking at temperatures in the mid-20s going into tonight, but the wind chills are still in the single digits and teens. That wind will slowly settle, though, and we'll have a lighter wind tomorrow. It's going to make a big difference, and temperatures will be in the low 50s into the afternoon. So we're working our way up, and we'll continue to get milder for the next couple of days, and we'll stay mostly dry. But notice on Thursday, we'll have rain starting to creep back into the picture, and we need that rain. Coming up, we'll talk about just how far behind we are. But at this point, the daytime on Thursday, just pockets of light rain. The better rain, the heavier stuff's going to arrive late evening into the overnight. I'll show you some of the latest data coming in on that timing coming up. And be sure to download the Fox Carolina First Alert Weather app. Scan the code, get the app for free. And that way we can bring you that first alert and send it straight to your phone.
And you decide tonight the Republican race for governor taking center stage in the upstate today. 4 of the 5 candidates in the race spoke at a candidate forum today in downtown Greenville at the Poinsett Club. It was put on by the Upstate Republican Women Club and the 4th District Republican Club. Now the candidates taking turns telling voters why they want to be governor. Congressman Ralph Norman, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evett, State Senator Josh Kimbrell, and Attorney General Alan Wilson were all there today. Congresswoman Nancy Mace was unable to attend, and her team telling us she was in Washington pushing to pass legislation. But that at the event today, we spoke with a voter and Republican leadership about the race.
Wilson was really a strong candidate. You had Ralph, another really strong candidate. If I had to say, I'm really divided between Ralph and Alan.
They're all going to believe in about 99% of the things, and they're going to disagree on that 1%. And I think that's what people really have to figure out for themselves is, how do you align with that 1%?
Now we have more coverage of all 5 candidates right now on our website, foxcarolina.com. And on the Democratic side of the race, State Representative Jermaine Johnson is speaking in Spartanburg tonight and stopped by our studio today to share why he wants to be governor. Johnson represents 2 counties in the Midlands at the State House. That's Richland and Kershaw counties. He's one of 2 Democrats currently in the race for governor. And today we asked him why he's running.
In South Carolina, we need some changes here. We are seeing over the years that our issues are not being resolved. We have a concentration of power of single party rule for over 22 years, and our roads are still abysmal. Our education is still in shambles. Healthcare is still a problem, and people are still dying from gun crime. So if power was the solution to all of our problems, then all those problems would have already gone away. So it's time for somebody to step up to the plate and make sure that things happen.
Now you can see our full in-depth interview with Johnson coming up tonight at 10:30, including what he had to say on who's the leader of the Democratic Party. We'll hear for you at 10 o'clock tonight. President Trump is set to give the State of the Union address tomorrow. And a Western North Carolina fire chief who saved hundreds during Hurricane Helene will be in attendance. Batcave Fire Department Chief Steve Freeman will be in North Carolina and be there. The North Carolina Senator Ted Budd's special guest for the address. I'll tell you, Freeman and his wife, Joyce, arrived in D.C., and Freeman has lived at Batcave his entire life, and his fire department is the last all-volunteer department in Henderson County. And during Helene, Freeman helped rescue and evacuate hundreds of people while also surviving a near-death experience of his own. Now, before tomorrow's address, he'll meet with lawmakers, sharing his testimony and asking for continued support for his community. But Freeman says this moment is much bigger than himself.
If you look around, all the other areas are getting back more to normal, and we've kind of been left behind. So I'm hoping that this is God's way of shining a light on. We need some more help down there.
Now, Freeman also thanked Spokes of Hope, a nonprofit that helped rebuild Chimney Rock and is still working to rebuild Batcave. After the address, Freeman will meet again with Senator Budd on Wednesday. And new tonight, a special honor for a Greenville native. Reverend Jesse Jackson is set to lie in state at the South Carolina State House next Monday, March 2nd. Government Master has also directed the flags on top of the State House to fly at half staff from sunrise to sunset that day to honor the civil rights leader. Tonight at 10 o'clock, opening statements underway in the trial for the woman accused of killing 4 family members. What went down in court? Coming up in today's top stories. And no word on a suspect or arrests after a high school student is killed in a hit-and-run crash. Hear from the teen's mother only on Fox Carolina News.
Where buying is made easy.
Investigative anchor Margaret Ann Carter on Fox Carolina News. You're watching Fox Carolina, the 10 o'clock news.
In tonight's top stories, a Western North Carolina woman arrested across state lines after deputies say they found over 120 grams of meth in her car. Anna Root North was arrested in Tennessee during a traffic stop last week. Deputies say they found meth inside multiple items, including a potato chip bag. She faces multiple charges, including driving while in possession of meth. In Clemson, Danielle Matthew is now charged with 2 counts of contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Police say the incidents happened at a home near West Main Street in Clemson. Officers say the charges involve 2 separate victims. The investigation is ongoing. In Anderson County tonight, a murder trial is now underway after a woman accused of killing 4 family members over a decade ago. The bodies of Michael and Kathy Scott, Barbara Scott, and Violet Taylor were found in a home on Refuge Road in Pendleton. Amy Velarde and her husband, Ross Velarde, are both charged with 4 counts of murder. Both suspects will have separate trials. Fox County's Brooklyn Cromer was in court today and is bringing us both sides from opening statements for Amy's trial.
We heard the 911 call Amy Velarde made, crying hysterically, saying she found 4 of her family members dead. She described a bloody crime scene, saying they were cold to the touch. But what we heard on that call was a far cry from what we saw in court. She remained stoic and showed little emotion as that call played out. Attorneys delivering opening statements this afternoon, the state arguing Amy Velarde along with her husband Ross Velarde carried out the brutal killings, highlighting a shoe print and financial motive. The state said the couple was behind on bills but had more than $65,000 in cash in the days following the crime, including $100 bills found in the Velarde's trailer. They said were with the victim, Michael Scott, the night before his death. The state also pointing out a bloody shoe print found at the scene, saying it matches a pair of shoes Ross Velarde owned. The state said it's not a perfect case, but asked jurors to connect the dots and find Amy Velarde guilty.
Now, I'm not going to stand up here and say this is a perfect case or a perfect investigation. You're going to hear that this incident took place in 2015 and the defendant wasn't arrested until 2023. But that passage of time doesn't make the evidence you're going to hear and the testimony you're going to hear any less meaningful. It doesn't make the events that happened back in 2015 any less horrific. And each piece of testimony that you hear is going to be a dot. And at the end of this trial, when you apply common sense and you connect all of those dots, and it shows the picture of the defendant, Amy Velarde, killed Barbara Scott, Kathy Scott, Mike Scott, and Violet Taylor, that's when we will ask you to find her guilty of 4 counts of murder.
Meanwhile, the defense argued this case is built on tunnel vision, saying investigators focused on Amy Velarde in 2015 but couldn't find enough evidence to charge her then. The defense claims nothing new surfaced until the television show Cold Justice revisited the same evidence 8 years later. They said the show re-interviewed the same people and uncovered no new proof. Without a smoking gun, they said the state cannot prove Amy Velarde is guilty.
In 2015, in October, November, when this happened, the investigators took everything they could. They did DNA testing, they, downloaded photos, they looked at property records, they looked at everything. So they didn't find anything that was enough. The reason for that is not because they didn't do a good job, it's because they only looked at Amy Velarde, and she didn't do it. There was no new evidence for them to bring back, so it sat. And it sat for 8 years until
state called several witnesses, and the jury saw video of the horrific scene. The bodies of the two elderly women beside each other on the living room floor, Mike Scott's body on the other side of the room, and Kathy Scott's body on a bedroom floor down the hall. Amy Velarde showed no emotion. She looked straight ahead and didn't watch the video play out. The trial resumes on Tuesday morning, with the state expected to call a long list of witnesses. Reporting in Anderson County, Brooklyn Cromer, Fox Carolina News.
And now, your Fox Carolina First Alert weather with Chief Meteorologist Kendra Kent.
Well, a nor'easter is finally moving away from the coast. This is a 12-hour loop, just showing you all of the snow that came down. The brunt of it around Rhode Island, coastal Massachusetts, where they've seen 30-plus inches of snow. Hard to even imagine. We thought it was a lot. We get about 6 to 8 around here. So, yeah, New York City getting about a foot of snow as well. And all that's going to start to taper off over the next several hours. You can see things slowly drying out. And we've had some snow showers along the Tennessee line this evening. Some of that's been creeping down even toward the Asheville area where we had a dusting, but we've had some higher accumulations, several inches along the Tennessee line. But right now, the bigger story, at least in the upstate, is how cold it feels. It still feels like 17 in Greenville, 23 in Spartanburg, 22 for Anderson and Clemson, and feels like 7 in Asheville. Tomorrow, we're going to warm up finally into the upper 40s with less wind. So yes, it will still be chilly, but we won't have that bone-chilling feel like what we had today. And then temperatures will cool down into the evening. Our next big thing, we're looking ahead to our next rain chance. This is the overall picture, and I've got some high-resolution data I'm going to show you a little later on. In fact, it's still actually processing. So we'll get a new glimpse into Thursday coming up with some of that data. But this is just kind of an overall view. Notice Thursday, 11 p.m. That's when the main system, an area of low pressure, will be right on top of us, and that's going to bring us some soaking rain. The good news is most of the data does bring this out of here in time for Friday and the weekend. Coming up, we'll go closer in, go hour by hour, and look at that weekend forecast too.
Only on Fox Carolina News tonight, investigators are still searching for the driver who hit and killed Dorman High School student Jose Morales Diaz. Tonight, only on Fox Carolina News, Enrique Salinas is speaking with his mother. This is something we've been following closely. Now, Enrique shares the message that his mother has for the driver who left that scene.
It has been almost a week since this mother saw her only son for the last time.
Me siento muy triste. I feel very sad. I have no words.
On Tuesday evening, deputies were called to Samuel Road and Howard Street in Spartanburg County.
Pero también me gustaría. But I would also like to know what really happened to my son.
And the South Carolina Highway Patrol says that Jose Julian Diaz was walking along the side of this road. He was hit by a car, and that car left the scene.
It was a surprise at the beginning. I didn't expect something like that.
Julio Flores is the pastor at Iglesia Adventista del Séptimo Día, a Spanish Seventh-day Adventist church in Spartanburg. He says when he heard the news about Jose, he was shocked. The pastor said Jose was a young boy full of life.
I can't believe that. It's so sad. I thought in his mom.
Jose's mother says he was a man who loved God and loved his family.
Mi Julián tenía un futuro por delante. He had a future ahead of him. He was a son whose faith was strong. He knew what he was doing, and he really loved sports.
The South Carolina Highway Patrol is asking anyone with information about the driver responsible to submit a tip. As for this mother, she has a message to the driver who fled the scene.
Dios obre en su corazón. May God work in his heart, and may he turn himself in.
Now, GoFundMe has been set up to help with funeral costs. Services for Jose will be held in Inman on Friday. Visitation starts at 5 p.m., followed by a memorial service at 7 p.m. At 10, an arrest made in a cold case. What deputies are now revealing about the nearly quarter-century-old murder. Plus, hundreds of gallons of wastewater from a rotted sewer line spill into a stream in western North Carolina. The latest from officials coming up.
That shines a light on aging in America. Aging Untold. Premiering March 2nd at 3 p.m. on Fox Carolina.
Well, let's take a look at those temperatures as we go into the next few hours. It's going to keep getting colder. Hard to imagine if you stepped outside your door in the last couple of hours. The good news is the wind is going to settle a bit. There'll still be slightly breezy in the morning, but overall much less windy than what we dealt with today. Temperatures will slowly rebound through the morning, so keep those heavy coats at the ready for the first few hours. Coming up, we'll talk about that warm up in our future, as well as hour by hour future track of upcoming rain.
Well, new tonight, an arrest nearly 25 years in the making. The Anderson County Sheriff's Office says a man is now charged with murder in the 2001 killing of a young mother who was shot at a party. Fox Sky's Christina Feliciano has more on this breakthrough.
This case went unsolved for more than 2 decades, but investigators say they never lost hope, and that perseverance is what led them to the arrest of a man they say was involved in Jennifer Lawson's murder.
This is a look at the long-awaited arrest of 55-year-old Andretti Goss, who's facing multiple charges in connection to Lawson's death. What started as a small, laid-back gathering along Camelot Forest Drive all those years ago in Belton quickly turned chaotic. Deputies say 3 men arrived, got into an argument, and after being asked to leave, fired a shot from inside their car. That bullet went through a wall, hitting one man in the shoulder before striking Lawson in the head. She was just 29 years old, the sheriff saying her whole life was ahead of her. One of the leading detectives says every case has its own set of obstacles, but this one had almost 25 years worth of challenges.
You have to track down witnesses. Obviously, people move around over 25 years, so tracking down those witnesses, and it's never easy to bring up an incident where they were at and somebody got killed. So there's a little apprehension in the beginning to speak about it, and then you kind of have to break them down as far as getting them comfortable to speak to you.
We're told this is one of the first major arrests for the agency's newly established cold case unit. We're told detectives re-interviewed witnesses, crossed state lines to gather more evidence, and ultimately identified Goss as one of 3 men involved.
Detectives say this case is still very much active, with more arrests possible. And as for the suspect, Goss, he will remain behind bars and was denied bond. Reporting in Anderson County, Christina Feliciano, Fox Carolina News.
Coming up, our full one-on-one interview with Representative Jermaine Johnson, who's trying to be the Democratic nominee for governor.
The most accurate forecast.
Family can be prepared.
Choose the weather team that gets it right. Fox Carolina First Alert Weather.
Oh, we are looking ahead to increasing rain chances toward the end of the week, but the next couple days will be mostly dry. Notice on Thursday, heavy rain will be on the approach. It's really Thursday night that we're going to have the best chance for rain. But don't have to worry about any rain on the way to the bus stop tomorrow morning or while the kids are waiting on the bus. Temperatures will be very cold, though, so make sure they are properly bundled up. Make sure you are ready as you step out the door. Maybe warm up the car a little longer in the morning than you typically do. Temperatures in the 40s by the afternoon, so absolutely going to have that wintry feel. Now, I know the kids probably wondering, are we going to get any more snow? Well, is it all done now that we keep warming up so fast? Well, I am saying there is a chance because, yeah, January is usually when we get the big ones. About 50% of our snows happen in January. But February, 22% of those happen, and doesn't look like it's going to happen for the end of this month. But March, we've had some pretty decent snows. In fact, 19% of our snows happen during the month of March. So, of course, we will be on the alert. But right now, looks like next couple of weeks we'll be averaging above normal after we get through tonight and early tomorrow.
Fox Fox Carolina News talking Unicide right now, and we are here with the Democratic candidate for governor, Representative Jermaine Johnson. So, Representative, thank you so much for taking some time with us. I'd like to start these off the same way. Why run for governor?
Well, in South Carolina, we need some changes here. We are seeing over the years that our issues are not being resolved. We have a concentration of power of single party rule for over 22 years, and our roads are still abysmal. Our education is still in shambles. Healthcare is still a problem, and people are still dying from gun crime. So if power was the solution to all of our problems, then all those problems would have already gone away. So it's time for somebody to step up to the plate and make sure that things happen.
As a Democratic candidate, it seems like right now the Democratic Party is at a bit of a crossroads. Not really sure who the party leader would be. Who would you define as the party leader? Or what do you want maybe Republicans to know about your Democratic stances?
Well, I'm not for anybody who wants to be the quote-unquote leader. I'm running for the people of South Carolina, and that's essentially all I want to do. I want to bring the messages back to the forefront, which is for the people. You know, the people are struggling right now in South Carolina to afford homes. They're struggling right now to get to and from work safely, and these are the issues. So whoever wants to, self-proclaim themselves as the leader of the Democratic Party doesn't make me never mind. I'm about the people of South Carolina.
You mentioned the change. You said, the people of South Carolina want to change. You've often mentioned that the people of South Carolina are ready for change. But we look at the numbers in 2022, Joe Cunningham lost by 18%. Vice President Kamala Harris also lost by 18% in 2024. What are you hearing? What barometer are you using to indicate that the people of South Carolina are ready for that change?
Well, even with those numbers that you just went out there, it doesn't include the fact that most people just aren't voting anymore. They have just checked out of the entire electoral process. And I believe I have a message for those people to come back into the fold. I've been talking to people all across the state, people who have not voted since 2008, and they're now saying that they're coming back. Some of these people even have to get re-registered to vote. It's been so long since they voted. And I've been talking to even other people who have not voted ever before. And these people are saying, listen, Jermaine, you are finally talking about the issues that matter to me, and I'm ready to come out and vote. So the numbers that I'm looking at are not going to match up with the numbers that we are seeing from past elections, because the people who I'm talking to are first-time voters or people who haven't voted in a long time.
You mentioned those issues that matter to voters. You've often talked about infrastructure, how bad our roads and bridges are. What's the way to fix them? How can we fund a fix finally?
Well, the first thing is we need to look at DOT. We need to see where our money is going to right now. You heard recently Governor McMaster talked about sending $1 billion to DOT, but it makes no sense if we send $1 billion to an agency if we don't know how the money is going to be spent. So we have to look at DOT in terms of possibly an audit and look at the structure of DOT, because right now we know DOT controls over 65% of our roads in the entire state. We may need to look at some restructuring to see if some of those roads can go back to the local municipalities to be able to respond quicker when it comes to fixing these roads up and doing some repavements of these roads.
Another issue, judicial reform. That's a big one that a lot of people are talking about, saying that lawmakers don't need to be the ones selecting judges. Do you have a plan in place on how you can bring judicial reform to the State House?
Well, I believe we just passed one of those bills about judicial reform. I've been on record talking specifically about this issue. I think it is one that needs to be addressed fully and completely, because we need to make sure that criminals are not being on these streets. I don't care who it is that is the lawyer, the attorney out there. I think that criminals need to be behind bars, and if we have individuals who are out there, because one of the data points that we know is we have over 600 unsolved murders in South Carolina just since 2020, and nobody's talking about that. That means, if you could just do a small figure, at least 300 murderers are walking around our towns and cities right now, and they have to be brought to justice. So whatever we have to do with getting the proper judges in place, we need to do it.
You are going to Spartanburg County tonight, visiting with voters there. Two big issues stand out in Spartanburg County right now when it comes to that gang violence, gang activity. A lot of young individuals have been killed. What is your answer to that?
Well, one of the things that I've already created is called the CVIP, Community Violence Intervention and Prevention. It's a new department that's housed inside the Department of Public Safety, and it focuses on preventative measures. So it's getting to these young people beforehand. I'm a big mentor, a big proponent for mentorship, but it also gives micro grants to grassroots organizations across the state that are fighting against violence and gun violence. And I think we need to bring men back into the forefront to start speaking to these young people, to show them the way and give them the proper guidance that they need. But it's all about preventative measures first, along with mental health capacity to help these young people know about conflict resolution skills.
Another big issue in Spartanburg County, AI data centers. There's one where they're discussing tax incentives right now for Project Sparrow. What's your stance on AI data centers? Are you willing to say no more, maybe a moratorium statewide?
I want a moratorium. I want a moratorium statewide. I want a statewide moratorium on data centers until we work through this legislation that we're going to be working on in the State House, because we have to figure out about the resources that they are taking, and they're not really giving back a lot of job opportunities for people. So moratorium until we can fix this issue, and then we can go from there.
I think lastly, another one thing, issue-wise, and I'm going to let you speak to the voters directly, but when it comes to education, South Carolina is still trying to figure out, are you for scholarships when it comes to that money going to charter schools or private schools?
I'm not for any vouchers or anything going into private schools until we fix public education in South Carolina. Right now, we're 43rd in education. True school choice is not forcing a parent to have to go from a poor performing school to a well-performing school because of funding. We have to equitably fund our public education system and allow the parents to choose from there. And that goes through by creating a full-on public education audit, K through 12, so we can look at the poor performing schools and compare them to the well-performing schools and come up with best practices from there, look at administration overhead costs, and come up with the best strategies for fixing our public education system.
All right, lastly here, your message to voters, why should they get your vote for governor?
Well, the people of South Carolina need to understand, and I'm hoping that they can understand, that I'm a person who's not playing politics with their lives. I'm about fixing the issues and solving the problems of everyday families right here in South Carolina. We need to fix these roads so they can get safely to and from their destination. We need to fix this education so they can make sure that their kids are getting the best resources and quality education possible so they can realize this American dream. And we need to make sure we're fixing healthcare right now, because too many families are struggling between paying these rising insurance costs and rising electricity costs and figuring out if they can afford the medication just to survive every day. So I'm about the kitchen table issues, not about the social issues that we like to focus on in the State House.
All right, Representative Jermaine Johnson, Democratic candidate for governor. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Now, again, Representative Johnson is one of two Democratic candidates currently in the race for governor. Low Country attorney Mullins McLeod is also in the running on that Democratic ticket. Now, we've also sat down with every candidate on the Republican side, all five in that race. We've sat down with full, in-depth interviews with each one of those candidates. You can see those interviews right now on foxcarolina.com. Well, new tonight, the hometown of Reverend Jesse Jackson paying tribute. Greenville City Council holding a ceremony inside City Hall today. Fox Carolina's Lex Urbach has more on how the upstate is now remembering him.
Jesse Jackson is a name forever memorialized in the minds and hearts of so many here in the upstate, and now it's a name that's here to stay. The South Carolina Department of Transportation dedicating part of Haney Street as Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Senior Street. It's the same street the late Reverend grew up on, and just one of the ways that leaders and residents are ensuring his legacy lives on in his hometown.
I used to hang around my mom a lot. I was a mama's boy.
Greenville City Councilman Ken Gibson says he's proud of that title, especially because his mother, former Councilwoman Lottie Gibson, was one of Reverend Jesse Jackson's mentors and friends.
I've met a lot of people who I just did not recognize at the time just how big they were and what a big deal it was, and he was definitely one of those people.
Councilman Gibson says his mother worked at Sterling High School, where Jackson was a student, while his father was a major leader in the NAACP.
He sets an example that you can come from here and change the world. And that's what he did. I mean, he inspired people.
Jackson was also involved in major state movements, including the push to remove the Confederate flag from the state capitol.
My father, Reverend Jackson, Ben Hooks, it's a picture that we have that shows their unity in boycotting South Carolina. That was something major.
Gibson and his brother Bill say Jackson felt like family.
When I was young, I saw him as an uncle. As I got old, I saw him as a brother.
Like Gibson, Jackson frequented City Hall.
Because many people don't know this, but how many times did he come through those doors? So many times. You didn't even know it happened, but he did.
Greenville Mayor Knox White spoke at the city's remembrance event, alongside state leaders and residents like Inez Morris.
I was part of the initial, as schools were beginning to be segregated in 1970 and 71. And Jesse Jackson, along with other of our leaders, were part of that. They made history, and they made a difference.
And now, Gibson says, it's Greenville's turn to make sure Jackson is remembered for that difference he made.
I'm hopeful that we in the city actually do something permanent that really recognizes that he is a native son of Greenville and recognizes the impact that he had on the world.
An official dedication ceremony for this sign is expected at a later date. We'll, of course, provide that information for you once we have it. Reporting in Greenville, Alexa.
And now, your Fox Carolina First Alert weather with Chief Meteorologist Kendra Kent.
Well, we are looking at temperatures in the 20s tomorrow morning. So, you know, if you thought we were sliding into spring, no, and be very careful about planting. Even when temperatures warm up as we get into the month of March, we can still have cold spells just like this one into early April. 25 for Greenville, 18 tomorrow morning in Asheville. So it has me thinking about our countdown to different holidays coming up, or maybe just things you got to do. The time changes in a holiday, but hey, a lot of us celebrate it because we get a little extra hour of daylight later on in the evening. First day of spring is in about 25 days. Easter, we are 40 days away. And then the start of summer, well, it's over 100 days away, but it is a sign that we are heading in the warmer direction. But you know, there will be those spurts of cold that still come back. Right now, looks like we're going to be above the average by Wednesday and Thursday, and we're going to keep it above that typical for this time of year, which is upper 50s into this weekend. In fact, look at that 70-degree reading for Sunday. That is going to feel good. We'll talk more about the rain that's going to lead up to all of this coming up in just a few minutes.
New here at 10 o'clock for you tonight in western North Carolina. More than 200 gallons of untreated wastewater spilled from a rotted sewer line. Officials say from 1 p.m. to noon today, 250 gallons of the untreated wastewater emptied from a broken sewer line on Kennedy Lane. Now, the wastewater then went into a river of Little Creek. Little Creek does eventually lead to Lake Lanier. We're told the line was rotten and full of rags, and officials say this was reported to the state. Well, coming up, Fox Carolina is following up on this collapsed bridge when it's set to reopen to traffic after the break.
Work with them and they'll get the job done.
Nature don't scream, call Hakeem, 800 all sevens.
New details tonight, an upstate bridge that collapsed last summer is now set to reopen. Fox Carolina has been following this story since last July when the Crow Creek Bridge in Pickens County collapsed. The collapse was caused by a truck that was above the bridge's weight limit. The bridge has been closed since then, but now it's set to reopen to drivers. The State Department of Transportation will hold a ribbon-cutting ceremony this Friday to celebrate the work of replacing the bridge, and then this weekend the bridge will be back open to traffic. The grace period for South Carolina's hands-free driving law ends this weekend. The law makes it illegal to hold any electronic device while you drive. It took effect last September, and since then, state troopers have handed out thousands of hands-free warnings across the upstate. But starting this Saturday, those warnings will turn into tickets. First-time offenders will get a $100 fine. If you're ticketed again, that fine doubles, and it's 2 points off your driving record. And again, that grace period ends this upcoming Saturday.
Well, we've got some rain on the way, but it's not going to get here until late Thursday. So we have a few dry days in store. Time to warm up a bit before that rain gets here. A slight chance on Wednesday would just be a sprinkle or two. And then Thursday would bring the soaking downpours, again, primarily during the evening. So that's our next big thing. Let's track it. This is the high resolution data I was telling you about. It just kind of cycled through. Still doesn't go out really far enough to show us a lot of Thursday evening and night. But notice Wednesday night, we're going to have some rain in the mountains, all with a system that's going to be taking shape out to the west. Some spotty showers will be possible around lunchtime, and then we get towards 7 o'clock, seeing that persistent rain across parts of the mountains. This is going to be great for the drought. The upstate not going to see that persistent rain as much. It will pick up during the overnight as all that swings through, though. So for Thursday's rain, spotty around noon. Rain becomes likely between about 6 and 11 p.m. 11 o'clock will bring some of the heaviest, and then we'll start drying out toward the wee hours of the morning and should be clear in time for Friday morning's commute. Will we get much in the way of lightning out of this? We'll see those little blue dots. That's indicating some very low intensity lightning. And as we put this into motion, it keeps all that activity generally in southern Georgia. Not expecting a lot of thunderstorm activity here, but can't rule out a rumble of thunder. And some healthy rain totals. Look at that, over an inch possible for parts of our area. Along the 85 corridor, we could really use that soaking rain, and that would come Thursday evening and overnight. So thankfully, the heaviest rain falling when many of us are at home already. And then we'll clear on up in time for Friday and the weekend. Oh, what a gorgeous weekend it'll be too. 70 on Sunday with mostly sunny skies. In the mountains, we've got soaking downpours late Thursday, but some of that could start even earlier in western North Carolina and then clearing up by this weekend.
Covering the nation now, a powerful snowstorm slammed the Northeast with near hurricane-force wind gusts, knocking out power and creating whiteout conditions. Blizzard travel bans remain in effect as 5 states have more than 2 feet of snow. Micah Lucia is in Boston with the latest.
State and local leaders across the Northeast are telling communities the danger from this severe snowstorm is not over.
Bottom line, stay off the roads. We're going to have to be patient. This is going to continue, it looks like, for a little while longer.
Monday, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey issued a travel ban of non-essential vehicles for several counties in the southeastern part of the state.
We needed to do this because this is a particularly hard-hit area. We need to have the ability for all essential vehicle travel to be able to go through. We also have reports of abandoned trucks and cars, stuck vehicles on roads around Massachusetts. Again, this is a reason we just don't want you out there because it creates burden on our first responders.
It's the biggest winter storm in years for cities like Philadelphia and New York. Monday afternoon, New York's mayor pleaded with people to stay safe.
This snow is exceptionally wet and heavy. Your health comes first.
The system also dumped record-breaking snow in Rhode Island.
The blizzard of 26 has now officially surpassed the blizzard of 78 for the most snow ever recorded in a single snowstorm in our Rhode Island state history.
Extreme winds combined with the heavy wet snow have caused electrical outages across the region. Crews are working around the clock to restore power to every home. In Boston, Michael Yoshida, Fox Carolina News.
Coming up, more people are turning to AI for money advice, especially about debt, how it's connecting users to help, and what not to share.
Carolina News gives you the first alert. Stay prepared with the Fox Carolina First Alert Weather app.
More Americans are trusting artificial intelligence with their wallets. New data shows the second most common use for AI is financial advice. This Watch Your Wallet consumer investigator Rachel DePomp looks at how people are using the platforms now.
A nonprofit that provides people with free credit counseling, Money Management International, says 30% of all online counseling sessions last October came from referrals from artificial intelligence platforms. Certified credit counselor with MMI, Marla Puckett, says that means people are actively searching AI for money help. In fact, she says just in the last month, 1,000 people came to MMI through ChatGPT.
Folks are really buckling down with this economy, and the credit card usage has gone up. Folks are getting deeper into debt, and the interest rates aren't going down. Interest rates keep going up, and so we're seeing a lot of folks looking for help with that.
Puckett says a lot of people like how anonymous they feel on AI. It's a way to secretly ask financial questions without the judgment, especially for the younger generations.
What I do is what's called debt and budget counseling. I help folks to learn how to budget, set up that budget, help with their credit cards, get interest rates reduced, payments reduced so that they're easier to handle. But we also offer a number of other services in the financial realm.
Puckett says she's still leery about AI, but she's glad it's leading people to nonprofits and not scammers. And a reminder, many experts say it's not safe to put personal financial information into AI platforms, but it's okay to use it for broad financial concepts, questions, budget templates. With This Watch in Your Wallet, I'm Rachel DePompa.
Coming up, 11th time facing charges. An upstate boutique owner arrested again, accused of scamming customers. Details ahead. Plus, a fire chief from the mountains who has helped his community rally after Hurricane Helene will be at the State of the Union tomorrow. Details ahead.